Welcome back to the Terre Haute mayoral debate. We are asking your questions that you have sent in to the News 10 newsroom. We continue tonight with another question from a viewer. With developments like Tech and the Terre Haute Casino, there are expected to be hundreds of new good-paying jobs coming to Vigo County. That's certainly welcome news. But some people have raised concerns about the local workforce being able to fill those positions. This is a two-part question. And Mr. Bennett, you will answer first. Do you think this is a valid concern? And what is your plan to attract and train people for these positions?
So it is absolutely a valid concern. It is all across the state of Indiana. Every community is facing this same thing that's bringing new business in. Is the pool big enough? Is there enough people to fill the jobs? We've got people driving out of Vigo County for jobs in other counties. We've got people coming here. When you kind of just look at the whole thing and you see that the growth is really happening in Vigo County, we have got to have more people here. That's the biggest thing. And in order to bring more people, you have to improve the quality of life, you have to have the housing, you have to have the daycare, the educational opportunities. All the things that we've talked about so far go into making this a place that stands out from all the other communities. We're competing with the world from right here in Terre Haute. Getting Tech was a huge win, and they told us it's because of the universities, it's the local location, and they said the workforce. And so they believe they can get the workforce they need. Others are struggling with getting enough people to be able to fill those jobs. We're out recruiting more businesses. There's more to come. There is some in the pipeline right now. We have got to make Terre Haute be an attractive place for those that live here and those that we want to bring here. And that goes back to the quality of life, the quality of place, and to be able to have all the resources needed to make it a place where they want to make home. We're going to see more and more of this. So it's a challenge for across the board to make those numbers go up.
Mr. Sackman, 90 seconds.
So I absolutely do believe it's a problem, and you see this in cities across the Midwest with an influx of 1 to 2 companies. And how do you tackle workforce development? Well, it starts with a close partnership with not just universities, but also the school corporation, and not just the Vigo County School Corporation, but surrounding counties. Currently, because of our aging housing stock and a problem that we failed at over the last 16 years, we will need to recruit folks who live outside of Vigo County to come in to work. So you've got to reach out to those surrounding counties and essentially create a plan where it does not matter if you have a GED or a PhD. There's an opportunity for full-time employment and a livable wage here in Terre Haute, Indiana. And as the mayor just mentioned, yeah, there's a slew of issues here. Part of it's child care, part of it's workforce development, and part of it's housing. I mean, folks, it took the American Rescue Plan Act money finally coming to a city like Terre Haute to address some of these key issues. We've got to have a long-term solution to child care, to the city budget when it comes to quality of life projects like parks, like pools, as well as workforce development. That's partnering with organizations like Work One. When it comes to the workforce development regions across the state of Indiana, ours was last in terms of receiving grant dollars and spending compared to the other regions in the state.
Mr. Bennett, would you like a rebuttal?
Yeah, I would just say that, you know, we've made significant progress. To see the companies that have landed here, from Saturn Pet Care to the steel plant expansion to Hearthside Foods, all of these things. Sony's up to 400 employees now. We're seeing that they're finding a great place to do business, and they're making decisions based on that. So we're doing the right stuff. The key will be just to get people to come here, find a house, and be able to be part of our local economy so they don't have to travel to a job. And so,
Mr. Sackman.
So I think we're halfway in the pool here. We need to fully dive in. We've got to look at retaining a lot of the students and a lot of the talent right here in our backyard. In early 2023, the United States Chamber of Commerce issued a dire warning to local governments and local economies. The need to diversify your workforce and your employment opportunities. Manufacturing jobs peaked in total in 1970, but productivity peaked in 2022. And the drive for automation is forcing a diversification of job markets.
All right, thank you, gentlemen. I'm going to move on to the next question. A lot of grant money and funding decisions are made through the state and the federal governments, okay? So having a good representative of the city in the Indiana State House is vital. Mr. Sackman, this question: how would you represent the city's interests on the state level?
Yeah, so I think part of it's having a strong relationship with your elected representatives, our state representatives, and our state senator. But I went up to the State House several times this past session, watching how other communities lobbied for funding and came to the State House. One city in mind was Fort Wayne. They brought a massive delegation. It was professional, really clear presentations on what they needed. And I would automatically look to partner with our universities, our school corporation, and the private sector to have a unified front when we approach the State House asking for funds. I've seen cities do it much better than us, some smaller, some much larger. But Class 2 cities across the state of Indiana are taking more advantage of federal dollars and state-based grant dollars. An area of concern is we're still hashing out the American Rescue Plan Act funds, yet the infrastructure money at the state level is already in the pipeline getting looked at to where it goes next. We've got to have a codified plan for how we invest state and federal dollars to incentivize these legislators giving us funds.
Mr. Bennett, 90 seconds.
It's all about relationships, and to say that we've not been successful in some way would be a big understatement. To secure a casino, to secure a food and beverage tax, those were heavy lifts in the legislature that many other communities have tried to do, including Fort Wayne, and have been unsuccessful. So our efforts here locally have paid off big time. It has a lot to do with being connected with the leadership, the decision makers. We've done a great job of being in the State House. We had buses of people that went to the State House. Great stories about that. The feedback we got was tremendous. We're doing the right things there. And I would challenge anybody who doesn't think we're getting the grants that we need to get is go on the DLGF website, look up the city of Terre Haute, and go back over the years, and you will see that we're receiving more grants than most of our peers in Class 2 cities. We've received over $50 million in the last 8 years from the state of Indiana that's outside of the regular grant process, and then including grants in there. So we're doing great on that front. It's a challenge, it's competitive. When you apply for a grant, only 20% of the people get a grant. 80% fail every year, 80%. So we can't live on grants. That's not the way it's going to work. You've got to make sure that you're getting grants periodically, and we've got a great team in both Washington, D.C. and Indianapolis lobbying on our behalf to make that happen. And then it's up to me and others to develop those relationships.
Mr. Sackman, would you like a rebuttal?
Yeah, absolutely. I've been all over the DLGF. I've seen the amount that we have been getting in grants over the last 8 years. And no, I think we've seen a lot more in other Class 2 cities. It's also important to note that the READY Fund, which was funded partially by the American Rescue Plan Act, all happened recently. So obviously there is an increase in funding issued through grants to communities across the state of Indiana. And when it comes to relationships, a young man down in Sullivan did great at making those. And look at what he did in 12 years, getting $100 million of grant money.
Mr. Bennett?
So, you know, that's an extreme example to look at Sullivan because they have Ochre grants. We're not qualified to get Ochre grants. Most of the money that they've received goes through the small community fund. We're not able to get those. We're an entitlement community. We are not qualified to apply for those. Everybody needs to know the facts here. It's not as easy as just saying we're going to go get more money. You have to be able to work within the system and be successful in that system, and we are.
We've hit another hot button topic. Mr. Sackman, would you like another rebuttal?
Yeah, absolutely. Fine. We'll take Sullivan off the chessboard here and look at communities like Lafayette, Bloomington, Kokomo, and Muncie. I mean, in 1970, the population of Bloomington was about 40,000. Now it's 85,000. Let's take a look at Lafayette. It's also higher than us. I mean, yeah, we'll take Sullivan off the chessboard, but just take a look around at some of these other Class 2 cities and see their revitalizations.
Mr. Bennett?
Well, so Bloomington's a great example. They have 47,000 students at IU, so 47,000 out of 80,000 are students. So I think we're holding our own here. Yes, we need to increase population, but there's much more to the story.
Gentlemen, are we done with that question?
We'll keep moving this train along.
Okay. There are initiatives in the region to combat population loss. You have touched on that topic a tad bit, but here's the question. First, some background. U.S. Census data shows a population loss for Terre Haute of about 2,300 people from 2010 to 2020. The question is this, and Mr. Bennett, you will answer first. How do you plan to turn around that loss and attract people to the area?
So once again, from the last two census cycles, over the last 20 years, we've lost 1,071 people. That's the census difference, maybe including the whole county in that number. It goes back to quality of life, quality of place. You know, one of the programs that we're working with the state of Indiana on right now is the Make My Moves program, just as one example. 20 families have moved to Terre Haute in the last 7 months through this program, and another 20 will be coming in the next 6 to 7 months. It's one way to get people to look at Terre Haute and want to be a part of this. When we talk to these folks, they're like, this place is great. Taxes are low, crime is not a problem. There is some housing issues. Some of them had to rent so far because they can't find a house they're looking for. But you have to do things that make it attractive. And this program is showing that we're doing just that. The people from Intech have said the same thing. This is a great community to do business in, and they're just getting started. So it's all about quality of life, quality of place, doing those, keeping taxes low, have good public safety, have housing, daycare, all the things that we've been talking about so far. That's what goes in the mix. And the mayor is not in charge of all those things. The mayor is a facilitator and a partner and a collaborator with the county and others to make these things happen. We have to make ourselves stand out from the rest of the crowd. We can't just be one of the players in the game.
Mr. Sackman, 90 seconds.
So Make My Move is a program where essentially you pay folks to move to your town. And yes, 20 folks have moved, and I thank all those 20 families for choosing to move to Terre Haute, Indiana, but it pales in comparison to the amount that's left. People vote in two ways, folks, at the ballot box and with their feet. And right now the polls are showing that folks are leaving. And we're talking about quality of life, quality of place. It's also important to note that there is a huge driver on where families choose to locate, especially young families. And that's education. A close partnership with the private sector, the school corporation, and the universities to re-look at the community plan to address the new incoming administration at the Vigo County School Corporation and their new plan, as well as a quality of life plan that nests where the school corporation would like to grow. I mean, folks, we've got to synchronize all these players. And I went to the State of the City address in about January, and one of the frustrating comments was, well, the city needs to hire a cheerleader to show off all the good work we're doing. Folks, that's the mayor. The mayor needs to be the cheerleader. The mayor needs to be a used car salesman for the city of Terre Haute, out there moving and shaking and driving folks to want to move to the city of Terre Haute, Indiana. Other programs like Make My Move is InVet. It's focused on bringing veterans to cities through placemaking and quality of life. Another program I'd love to see us utilize more here in Terre Haute, Indiana.
Mr. Bennett, 30 seconds.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. You know, I would think I've been a huge cheerleader for this community. And I've never said we had to hire one, so I'm not sure where that came from. But the idea is we all have to be cheerleaders. We all have to talk positively about our community. If you don't, you're doomed for failure. And we've seen a tremendous change in that. All the research that we've done tells us that people are feeling better about Terre Haute every single day.
Mr. Sackman.
Yes, so I'm all about being positive and charting towards a forward path, but what I will not do is dismiss the facts, dismiss the clear picture that's being painted with a lot of the stats and the data that we've seen throughout this entire debate, whether it's crime, homelessness, or a low median income and an increasing poverty rate. Folks, they're the facts. It's okay to say we're going to address them. That's not being negative.
Mr. Bennett?
Well, I would say that you can take data and twist it any way you want, but the facts are the facts. And anybody that would like to see any of this data, you come to see us and we'll show it to you. It's all accurate and we're making progress. So that's the bottom line.
Mr. Sackman, 30 seconds.
Well, there you go again, Mr. Mayor. I mean, yes, the facts are the facts. So we've got to solve this. We've had back-to-back population declines, a median income that is clearly low, and workforce development concerns from employers. All you've done is point the clear picture that we need to have change in City Hall.
Mr. Bennett?
Well, the reason why we're seeing the pressure now is because we're getting all these jobs and all these opportunities. The economic development side of things has bloomed on us, and we're starting to really feel some of the repercussions of that, and we're going to have to deal with it. The plan is in place, and we will.
Mr. Sackman?
Yes, so 12 years into the sitting current mayor's administration, we had a community plan, and now all of a sudden we're seeing success, success, success. It's okay to say we need to alter course, and that's all I'm saying here today. We need stronger partnerships with the private sector, with the school corporation, with universities, and a new look at the city budget.
All right, gentlemen, we're having a great conversation. Mr. Bennett, would you like, we could keep going back and forth.
Well, we should move to some questions.
We'll go on to some more questions. Sure. Let's take a break for a moment and more of your questions when the WTHI mayoral debate continues.